Hey everybody, it's Crazy Bean Carol. How you doing? Today I'm going to be giving you guys some tips for your first competition. So this video is more dedicated to the beginner cubers, or at least those who have never been to a competition before. Then again, I guess you could apply these tips for any competition, but these are really especially for beginners. So competitions are a really big part of cubing, I feel like, and if you are a cuber but you don't really go to competitions or you've never been to one before, I would definitely recommend doing it because it's super fun. Even if you're not that into speed cubing and you're more into like collecting or modding or whatever it is, I would still recommend going just because it's fun to hang out with other people who have the same hobby as you. So without further ado, let's just jump right into some tips. Alright, so my first tip sort of applies to before the competition. Before you arrive at the competition, I would recommend reading or at least skimming through the regulations and understanding them. You want to make sure you're really clear about the expectations at a cubing competition so that you're not confused when you actually go there. I would also recommend doing it just because it's kind of annoying if you don't understand the regulations and you're constantly breaking rules, and it sort of slows down the competition because people have to explain like what you did and why it was wrong. So it's just easier if everyone reads the regulations and understands them. Now this sort of leads into my next tip, which is to arrive early. I do understand that competitions do start pretty early in the morning, but it's definitely worth it to arrive early. First off, it's really stressful if you arrive late because you're not sure if your event's already happened or you have to move to like the next heat because you arrived late. Another benefit of arriving early is that competitions usually have a sort of beginner's tutorial at the start. So if you didn't understand something in the regulations or you're just having trouble understanding what to do at a competition, you can just check out the beginner's tutorial at the beginning and hopefully that clears some stuff up. One other important thing about arriving early is that it gives you time to warm up. I find that it's really hard to do well in cubing in general if you don't warm up first. At my last competition, which was Princeton Fall 2018, I arrived kind of late and I didn't have time to warm up, so I did pretty badly in my first event. Another tip is that if it's your first competition, don't sign up for like a lot of different events that you're not very familiar with. I feel like one of the goals of your first competition is to sort of get used to what sort of the competition is like versus just getting really good times. If you sign up for like 5 different events and 3 of them you're not really familiar with, you're kind of discouraging yourself because 1, you're probably not going to do very well if you're learning it like the day before. 2 is that it allows you to sort of learn more about what the competition is like versus just solving. So basically don't sign up for an event, learn it like the day of, and then do it because first of all that's kind of stupid, that doesn't really make any sense. And also, it obviously will discourage you because if it's your first competition and you don't do really well, it's kind of like, eh. The next 2 tips sort of go together. The first one is to sit at a table with a lot of people. You don't want to sort of seclude yourself in a corner, which is really what I did at my first competition. I know it's kind of difficult to sort of allow yourself to not be so nervous and sit down with other people and talk, but it's definitely beneficial to sit with other people because even if you don't like have a full-on conversation with them, it's sort of nice to just be around other people versus just staying in like a little corner and not talking to anybody. And I guess the second part of this tip is to talk to people. I really didn't do this at all for my first few competitions. It definitely makes going to a competition more fun if you have people to talk to versus just sitting by yourself. And I know it's really easy to be like, oh, just start talking to someone, but I know for me, it's really hard to do that because like, I don't know how to like start talking to someone that I don't know. So I guess some common things you could just start a conversation with is like, what do you average? How did you do in that last event? Or can I take a look at some of your puzzles? It's sort of like a generic thing to start talking about, which hopefully could lead to a conversation. My next tip is to film your solves so that you are able to look back and see what mistakes you made. It is a very common thing for people to film their solves at competitions because a lot of people are cubing YouTubers, so they film their solves and post it on YouTube like I do. But even if you don't have a YouTube channel, I would still recommend filming your solves just because if you made a certain mistake or you're like not really sure what happened that led you to get like a really slow time, you can just look back at the footage or maybe even put it in slow motion and see what went wrong. You don't have to have some like high-end $10,000 camera to film your solves. You can just use like a phone or something and like prop it up with maybe a cube, and just it allows you to look back and see what mistakes you made. The next tip is to watch other people solving. You don't want to just do your events sit down and then leave. You want to like watch other people, and especially if they're really fast, you could see like what they're doing. Maybe they have good look ahead or they use certain algorithms you don't know. This could also be another conversation starter. Once they're done with their event, you can ask them like certain algorithms they use or what they do to decrease their time. I feel like it doesn't really make sense to go to a competition, just do your solves and then leave, because you can really just do that at your own house. So yeah, those are all of my tips. I hope this helped those people who are going to their first cubing competition, but you could always use these tips and apply them to any competition. So let me know in the comment section down below if you have any tips for your first cubing competition, or just any sort of tips in general to decrease your times. But anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time on Crazy Bean Carol. Bye!